Central Plains Library System. This is Denise. hmm Good morning. Well, we have a few here this morning that want to learn a little bit about Cricut Design Space. I'm going to jot your names down here so that I can turn in the credits. And this, and I'll have time for questions at the end in case anybody, but feel free to type in the chat anytime that you have a question. And let's see here. There we go. All right, I got everybody down. So you'll get your hour of CE for participating in this Thursday morning learning session. Uh, we are going to be talking about Cricut Design Space and how many great things it can do for you. I want to make sure I can share my screen. Let's see here. There we go. I think I got it now. Yes, that's perfect. Okay. So I have this handout that I used when I was at the Southeast Library System Training Extravaganza. And also, um, it was the spring meeting for the Public Libraries and Trustees section. So that was kind of nice that we got to have a dual purpose for that meeting that day. So that's why it says Sales Training Extravaganza at the top of my handout. Now, when I post this to the YouTube channel in case you need to go back and watch, because sometimes it's nice if you miss something, you can rewatch it. But I will put this handout in the description of that video so that if you'd like to print it out so you have it in your hands, you can do that as well. So we'll just start with tip number one, and it's a really easy thing to do, and might think, well, why would I do that? So let me show you, and I tried to give step-by-step instructions again so that you could do this with the handout in your hands so you don't have to remember everything. All righty. So first thing I need to do is put something here. There's somebody else coming. Okay, so I'm going to put something on the canvas. The canvas is what you're looking at when you're trying to get something ready to print, to either cut out vinyl or iron on. Um, and so I saved some bookmarks from when I was in McCook this spring. I'm trying to get it opened up. There we go. So I'm going to tell it to put it on my canvas. Okay, so this is the bookmark. This is the size that it was. And then I had all of these different things that could be put on the bookmark. See, and I cut them out of heat transfer vinyl, also known as iron-on. And then they could cut out the vinyl and then iron it onto the bookmark. So it was kind of fun. But okay, so tip number one is how to change this canvas in behind to a different color. And let me show you why you might want to do that. Now, here is a design, and I'm going to put an offset on that design, a smaller offset, I think. You know, just it's not, I don't really need a quarter of an inch. Okay, so when you look at that, let me see what offset I have. Good grief. Well, actually, I put a little edging all right around all the letters, and that doesn't work out all that well. Um, okay, I have to close that. Good grief, I'm having trouble this morning. Okay, so most of the time, the offset would be white. Not exactly. In this case, the offset is black. But you know what? Here's a tip for you. This back arrow, the undo arrow, is really useful. And I am going to undo pretty much. There we are. Now we are back to where we started. Okay, so what I need to do is show you how to change the canvas color. What will be easier is if I just start with a shape. We'll just put a circle there. And then I'm going to put an offset around it. Normally, when you're making stickers, your offset is white. And so it's kind of hard to see on this white background. But if you go clear to the right-hand side at the bottom of what's called the layers panel, there's a button that says blank canvas. So I'm going to click on that. And at the very top of the screen now, in the middle, there's the word color, and there's a white box under it. So if I wanted to change the screen color to lavender, I could. And what that does is it highlights that offset. If I was making stickers, I would like to be able to see how wide that white area is. So maybe instead of having it smaller, I'd want it to be bigger. And now it is, and again, generally you don't leave it black, you make it white. So now you can really see the offset. That generally, really, that's the whole purpose of being able to change that screen. Or if you just are one of those people who likes to have color in their lives, it just makes it easier to see what you're doing. And so you can make it any color. That one's awful. That would give me a headache. But you can see what you're doing and how it's all going to look a little bit better if it's not glaring white all the time. Now, I'm used to it being white, so I generally leave it that way. But that's tip number one, is you can change the color of that uh, canvas background. Okay, so let's look at tip number two. You can rename the layers. Now this one, you'll really be able to see the benefit to this. So when I look at this, it says layers at the top. And so this is the layers panel. Now, when I'm looking at all kinds of things, we'll leave the circles and the offsets alone. But right here, this one is called a weld result. I'm going to click on it to see which one we're talking about. Okay, it's the one that says to be continued. What that means is I welded this together so that it would stay and cut, and it would always be exactly the way it is there, except for you can change the size by dragging the corner. So if you'd like to make it a little bit bigger, if your bookmark is bigger than that bookmark or whatever you'd like to do, but it says weld result. Now click on the next one down. It also says weld result. That's the one called read your heart out. And again, I set it up so that it would not print in all different spots. So if you've ever hit make it and you go to your make it screen and every component is just squeezed tight across the top, what you need to do is either attach it or weld it. And we'll go over that here in a little bit. But right now, the one that is highlighted with the square around it, you can see the dimensions at the top of it, and the teal color over here is what goes together with it. Because if you click on this one, then this one has the line around it. That means it's selected. You can see the size, 1.12 inches by 4.35 inches. That it means it is selected. But what's really aggravating is if you can't really tell, sometimes you have a lot of stuff on your canvas and it's really hard to tell which is which by this teeny tiny little picture here on the side. So to change that weld result, that is not descriptive at all. This one is to be continued. That's what that one says. It's a bookmark. So I'll go down here, change this one to read your heart out. Okay, now look, here's a weld result. What is that? It's like long skinny thing. Where is that? Oh, it's the actual bookmark. And we had to weld those two spots in the center because that's where the tassel goes when you fold it over. Because this is intended to be folded in half right here in the middle. And those dots that are cut out, you can see they're cut out because you can see the canvas in behind it. And again, that's another reason. You wonder if something's going to cut. You can see now that that's red in behind that. So the canvas shows you that that will be cutting out. All right, so I had to weld it together so that those two dots would always stay in the same spot. So instead of saying, oh, for goodness sakes, now I have to use the undo again. Instead of saying weld result, I'm going to say bookmark. Okay. All right. So that is why it is useful to be able to do that, because anytime you perform an action, like if you attach things together, or if you weld it, or if you group something, you see attach, weld, and group. Well, that's not useful. It's almost impossible to figure out which is which when you have a whole bunch and more than what you can see on your layers panel. So that was tip number 2. All right, let's go back now and look at tip number 3. I'm checking the time here. Okay, tip number 3. There's a toolbar, and I'll show it to you, on the bottom of the layers panel. And it has all these different words, and you think, well, what does that mean? What is slice? What is attach? You know, all of those things. So let's go through that real quickly here. I want to make sure I'm giving you all the information here. Okay, so now we're going to move all of the things over. Oh, see, that one I didn't group or attach, so that one I'm gonna, okay, so I've decided I don't need these white circles. So, and I'm never gonna need them. If I wanted to just hide it, here's an eyeball on the right-hand side of the selected on the layers panel, the teal bar. If you click on the eyeball, it disappears. But you can unclick on the eyeball and it shows back up again. So what's nice though is if I decide I don't need that permanently, I can trash it from here. It's very easy. There's a little trash can. There she goes. Okay, so I'm going to move all these bookmarks, these fun little sayings, over here. And I will pull out some shapes to show you how the panel, this layers panel, clear at the bottom, is a toolbar. All righty, so we're gonna put a square and a star out here. Got a couple of stars. Okay, so we're gonna put those all over here. Now, if you want a half of a circle, you can slice that. If it were not available here, you can make your own. So you lay one shape across the other, then you click outside both of those shapes and drag across them. That selects them and puts them together. See, both are selected. Now from down at the bottom, I can hit slice. Now see, that did a lot on the layers panel here. It put a whole bunch more layers, and let's count them together here. We've got one layer that looks like that one. We've got a half layer that came out of this. We've got a half layer that or a half a circle that we cut out. And then here's the top half of that circle. This was the circle, this was the square. So we have all these pieces and parts that we have after just doing that one action of slicing out what was overlapping between the circle and the square. And that is useful because there are many times you'd like to get rid of something. Like, let's say I'd like to get rid of, I wanted to say just one more chapter. Let me see, I'm not sure it's going to work. I really should never do these things without testing them first. But okay, so I want to leave the glasses, but I want to take the books off the bottom. Okay, so you can see, and let me, oh, it's not going to let me slice. See, I knew it wouldn't do it. Okay, it won't let me do that because there's more than one line here. Slice is a feature that is intentionally designed so that you can just cut out one line at a time. Okay, so let me show you something else, another feature that is there. I'm bringing in a full circle again. And I'm going to make this circle pretty good sized. I'm going to make this star yellow and this star yellow so that you can see it when well, I have to arrange it. Here, let me see. I'm going to put the circle all the way to the back. What that means is anything you lay over top of it is not underneath of it, it's on top of it. Okay. So I'm making this very cheerful little face. Now, if I click outside of it and connect everything, slice is not available to me. You can see that right here. It only splits two overlapping images or text into separate parts. It does not do multiple cuts at the same time, because this would be cutting out this star and cutting out that star and cutting out this mouth. So you cannot do that. However, you can subtract. And what that does is it gets rid of all of those shapes within a single shape. So that is a handy little thing. You can see now that it is goes clear to the canvas because you can see the canvas behind it. And that way it removes all shapes from the bottom layer, and it's all at once, not like slice. Okay, so those are just gone. You don't have all the slice results. It just goes ahead and gets rid of them. All right, so the next thing, what else do we have here? An intersect. Okay, so let's go ahead and get us out a couple more shapes. And let's say, okay, so I've got mine lined up. It kind of looks like a party hat on a goofy little kid. You could make it do something there. But when you click outside of the shapes, you drag across the two that you want to deal with, the diamond and the heart. Now let's look at, I could slice it because it's only one shape. Well, let's say I only want the piece that intersects. See, now it gave me only the piece that was connected with the two. Okay, so it only gave me the piece that was connected. Now let's see if I want to do exclude. That's going to get rid of the overlapping section. See, there it got rid of it. So now I have one outline. So as you are practicing and doing projects and design, this is really important when you're designing. You can use these features to help you um, make different shapes that are not available or that you just really need for your own project. Okay, so here is where you can, see now I'm going to undo exclude. There, it took it out. Um, Here I have my two shapes back. If I put them together again, oops, it's a little too far. Let's see if I can get it to be the same shape. Okay. Then I highlight them together. I knew that was going to happen. It's too close. Whatever the box is around is what you're going to work with. Now, if I hit weld, like we've talked about welding, that is together now. I mean, there's nothing you can do. It doesn't go back and say undo. Now, if you don't go very far and you use the back arrow up here, the undo, it will take them apart. I thought it would. Maybe it won't. No, it's a weld result. You can't do it even that way. Nope. It's the weld result is still there. So once you weld it, you have the exterior line as your edge, and that's the way it is. If you're not sure that you want to actually weld it, and welding does make it so that the color is the same. So let me put these here. I sliced it, but now I want to put it back together. Okay. So I'm going to highlight it, except I need to change the color. I'm going to change the color of that half circle so you can see it. Or I changed the color of the square. It doesn't matter. Whatever, just so we can see it. Okay, so if we put it back together, there we go. We lined it all up. Click outside the box and tell it that I want to unite it. It changes it to the same color. Now see, it didn't fix my boo-boo because there's spots on here that are not, it's not even across the top. So I'm thinking, gosh, I better undo that. I can go down here and it says undo unite. So there's the, so it went ahead to undo the unite for me. But let's see here if I can make it close enough. We'll change the color so you can see it. All right, now you can see it. It's starting close. Okay, so now I'm gonna, if it's two different colors and you weld it, it changes it to the same color and it'll never go back. So that you have to be careful with weld, especially if you've done a ton of designing and because you can't go back from welding. So that's the trick to that one. All righty. Contour. That's kind of a cool thing as well. Let me go back and show you. Okay, so we have our face. Oh, it doesn't let me do contour with that one. Here's the design to be continued. It lets me use the contour button. Now, if I wanted to get rid of anything in this, any certain lines. Okay, let's play it here. I want to get rid of that color. You can get rid of it. If I wanted to get rid of what's inside that O, I just have to find it here. Let's see if I can spot it. I think this is one. There, see, then I take that color out of there. That's not it. That's the O here. And again, if you're working on something that's really detailed in Cricut and there's way too many little cuts in it, you can bring it into the contour and you hide it, and it it really helps it because it makes it less detailed. See this, I just did, if there were some, because sometimes there's little confetti things, like if you were going to print a design and there's all this little confetti flying around outside of it, and you don't want that there. That's what the contour button is good for, is you can get rid of any line that is out there. Now, tip number 4, I have 10, and some of them are easier to go than this, so we'll be good. Tip number 4 is there is actually a monogram maker on the Cricut. So let me trash some of the stuff that we have here because it's a little bit distracting. The monogram maker is a handy little opening here. See, I just opened it up and I have my initial D my first initial. And you can go through modern, and there's all these choices here. If you wanted that D or this D, and some of them have frames around them. So if you want that or this, you can tell it whether you want the Cricut to cut that out so you can iron it on or use a vinyl to stick it on a water bottle. Or if you want it to draw part of the design, it's your choice. So there's an elegant, see now here's kind of a fancy one. Or there's one, that one. Boy, if you cut that one out, man, you'd be at the contour button getting rid of some of these cuts out of this leaf and out of the roses. You wouldn't get rid of them all because then it wouldn't look like roses. But oh my goodness, there's a lot of detail there. Let's see. The handwritten one. This one's kind of cool. It's got, but you could get rid of these teeny tiny little lines. Let's look and see. Again, I really shouldn't do this without testing it out, but let's see what the contour gives us on this one. See this teeny tiny little line up here? Uh, let's see. That one's that. Let's see what this one is. There it is. So I don't want it to cut that out. And you keep going until you find all of the little lines. There's that one. And now, oh, where is the other one? I've got, here it is. Okay, so I took out what was in this center part here. Let's look at it on the screen again. See, now that is a solid D. Instead of having all those little teeny tiny pieces cut out of it, it just makes this a solid piece now. You can do the same for down the back of the D, but that's a good example of the contour. But we were looking at the monogram. So I'll put my D in there. Now, if I wanted a monogram for a wedding, let's say Vaughn and I are getting married. So let's see. H would be in the middle, and V would be on C, and they here it turned us around. Okay. Okay. So then, see, here's like a monogram from if you were getting married. You know, Harder's, Denise, and Vaughn. And then if you look at the elegant one, there's this one. There's all kinds of choices there. Or my initials are DRH. That's just what my initials are, Denise Renee Harders. Okay, so then I can look, and there's all these different options. Okay, so I can put my initials on something like this, DRH, or I can do a more traditional monogram and put the H in the middle. Now, those were all classic monograms. Now, these thematic ones are kind of funny. There's botanical, meaning floral, decorative. Oh my gosh, look at this. If this was an operation where you would cut, that'd be ridiculous. Oh, see, there's a DRH in the middle of that. Yeah. And that's one that's highly decorative. You can, if you like the moon and the stars thing here, could do that. Here's a, looks like a Park Service emblem. But yeah, so there's all different things here that is very decorative. Now here's one for different occasions. So if you wanted to put my initials under a graduation cap or inside an engagement ring or in a cupcake or an Easter bunny, a Christmas tree, so many things. Different interests. If you have someone who's a hunter, royalty, a nurse, that little ziggy zaggy. The butterfly's kind of fun. A flamingo. If someone's really musical, you could cut that. Or if they're into sports, when then they have football, basketball, hockey, baseball, bowling. Look, you could put a bowling pin with a initial in the middle of it. Or two baseball bats or soccer ball. So the monogram maker really makes it easier to do a lot of things if you are interested in putting people's initials on stuff. So let's look here. Okay, adding text. I don't know if you've ever had problems adding text, but I have. And so that's why I wanted to put that in. It's the basic idea of it is you go over here to the left-hand side and you look down under images and there's the text box. Now it always pops up with the word text and it comes up in Cricut Sans. Now, if that's not what you're interested in, you have to double click it so that it is colored. So there's some sort of color there. So it varies. And you go up to the font. It's on the top row. And then you have so many choices. Okay, so the first one says Cricut. If you have Cricut access, you will lose your mind looking through these fonts. It's just too much, I'm telling you. If you do not have, and then those are included with your Cricut access account. Now that's paying essentially about $10 a month. You can do that if you want to have that for your patrons. You can have Cricut access only in October and November while everybody's there making Christmas presents, and then cancel it the rest of the year. It only costs you 20 bucks instead of the $100 that a year membership is. Then they have access to all of the images, all of the projects, all of the fonts, all of the shapes. It adds a lot. And so if you have a bunch of people coming in, subscribing for just a month or two could be worth it. And Cricut doesn't care. You can turn it on one month, turn it off the next. It doesn't matter. You can go back and forth. Now, the system, if you see Cricut is underlined right now, if you underline system, all you will see are the fonts that are downloaded to the computer you're using. So if you have a ton of fonts on your computer and you don't want to deal with trying to figure out whether or not you can pay for this or don't have to pay for that, just switch it over to system. Because like this computer has 192 fonts, and I know we have not put I think it came that way. And there are a lot of different ones here. So use the ones that are free. Now, if you have been doing a lot of designing and yesterday you found the perfect font, there's a couple ways to find it. As you click on recent. Now, this is all of our this tells you what's currently on the canvas from all these different fonts, or things that I have recently used. So then you can go back and try and find the one that you used yesterday. Or the final thing you can click on up here is bookmarked. So if you choose to, you can bookmark. See this little green tail? It looks like a bookmark. It's always there, whether it's green or white. If it's green, that means you've clicked it and you've bookmarked it. If it's white, you have not. So let's say I really like this cinnamon swirls. So I'm going to change my text box to cinnamon swirls. It comes up again with the word text. Now, here's the problem. Let's see. I want you double click it and you type in your name or the name of whatever you're trying to um, have it cut out or write. Now, if you want to move it around, you have to get the box away from it. So that's why I clicked out on the canvas. Then you click in the center or anywhere. One click makes it so you can move it around. So if I wanted to use the word California underneath a shape, let me get a shape here. We'll get a circle, or no, a kind of an oval this time. All right, so I have my oval. I'm going to make it bigger. The way to do that is one of two ways. You can drag from a corner. When there's a plus in the middle, it means you can move it around. Or if you don't want to just drag the corner to make it bigger, this is right now 3.67. You can use the size here. So I'm going to say I want that to be a 4-inch wide oval. Click on the 4. Now I have, and since I did not unlock this little, this is the picture of a lock. And that means that it will stay proportionate. So when I changed it to 4 inches wide, it meant the height is still just kind of an oddball number, 2.827. However, if it was important to me that I could only have it 4 inches wide, the height doesn't really matter. I can do that. Now, if it needs to be shorter than that, let's say I wanted it 4 inches wide, but I wanted it 2.5 inches high. I have to unlock the lock because if I change this to 2.5, it's going to change the 4 because it's keeping it in this proportion. However, if I unlock this, change it to 2.5, it makes it a little squattier. See how it squished it down? And in order to do that, I had to unlock the proportion keeping lock. And then I could give it my 2 dimensions. Okay, let me see what else. So if you want to change the look of this straight line, you can actually curve your letters. You can curve your words. See right here, there's a curve on the second toolbar down, just the second thing in from the right. I'm going to click on curve. Okay, so when I look at this, there's the each end and it droops in the middle or it pops up over the top. Well, since it's under that oval, I want it to droop in the middle. So I am going to take a hold of this. And you see it draws that line for you so you can see what it's doing with your word. All right. So now I'm going to move California up above my oval. And I'm going to turn it the other way. Let's see here. I want to make it so that it goes over the top. Come on, you silly thing. There we go. There we go. Now see, now it goes over the top, and let's say that was a picture that I had taken in California, and I wanted to get the letters to be curved perfectly over it. Now, if I got another piece of text here, let me bring this one over. I have to, if it's highlighted like that, you cannot move that thing. I'm telling you, anything you do, you cannot make it move. If you click off of it, get the plus in the middle, then you can move it around. And if you start trying to type on it, I'm typing right now, it doesn't change it because it's not highlighted. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that. And I'm going to write, oops, it helps if my fingers are on the right keys. Home sweet home. But I need to, oh, good grief. I was going to type three lines in a row. Now my line spacing is too much. You know, I can't, that doesn't even look right. So I look at the line spacing and I want to lower it. See, it's squeezing it together now because I'm hitting the lower arrow, and now it's a -2. Okay, so now it says home sweet home. Look at the warp. Let's look at that. It's in the center on the top toolbar. And you can make 3 lines of text do all kinds of things. Look at all these options. So let's look at that. See, now home sweet home is at an angle. Or if I'd like it to be pointy at the top, look, now it squinched it all up. Home sweet home. It depends on really what it is you're trying to do. See, there's the, like, it looks like a megaphone to me. But look at all these crazy things you can do with the word warp. It'll do 3 lines of text. You know, you can squish it in the middle. You can push it out in the middle, like, you know, like belly's pushing out. You can have it be straight across the top and then a curve at the bottom, or straight across the bottom with a curve in the top. Now, I'm not saying that this is, I honestly, I don't know how useful it would be to me, but it's something I wanted you to see, that if you like to do word art type things, warp is a way to go. So I'm going to use this trash button right up here. Okay, so that one's done. So that most of the time, there are things that don't look good on a curve or warped. If that had been big block letters, the warping probably would have looked better. So now, sometimes though, people pick really skinny fonts. I have seen this happen, the big Ray Dunn thing. They pick a really skinny font. And I was going to say, I'm going to go ahead and get a text in there again. And I can't bring it over till I click off of it because it was highlighted there. Now we'll bring it back over. Now, it doesn't have to be highlighted to change the font. Tip number 8 talks about using the offset to make skinny fonts wider. Okay, so it gets in alphabetical order here because I used Cinnamon Swirls. That's the name of the text, the font that's right here. So there it's all the different names here. There is a font. I just want to use it so I can show you what I'm talking about. This one looks kind of like Ray Dunn, which we can't use that specifically because I'm sure that is copyrighted. I know it is. So there is a backyard garden. That's a really skinny little font. See, that's the word text right there. So I am going to, and it's all caps, use the word skinny. Okay, now I am going to use the letter spacing. You know, I use the line spacing to draw home sweet home closer together. I'm going to use the letter spacing to separate the letters in skinny just a bit. So letter space is right next to font size, and I want to go up. So see, it's pulling the letters apart. Okay, so it says skinny, but if I cut that out of vinyl, I would have to use tweezers to do anything with it because it's so teeny tiny skinny. So if I use the offset like I was making a sticker, just like we use it to make stickers, and I change it to 0.03. So that's a teeny tiny little offset, and then click apply. Okay. It did not apply the offset. Let me see why. I got to do 0.3 and hit apply. That didn't work. That made it a big blob. There we go. That undo button could be your best tip of the day. I have done this before, so I know that it works. It is applying the 0.25. That's why it's a big old blob. All right, so we can maybe bring it down by, there we go. I just moved to the little dot in the middle of that. Now I'll click apply. That's a little heavy for me. So I'm gonna have to undo it. I know I can do it. I'm gonna give it one more try here. You don't want it 0 because that's not gonna give you anything at all. Try just one more time because I hate for it to get the better of me. If you look at it on the handout sheet when you get it, you can see when you can do point. I don't think it applied it. No, it didn't. All right, so when you when you get the handout sheet, I'll show it to you here. And it can be done. It's just this computer's being ornery today. It only goes to 0.056. And it's not even doing that this time. Let me show you on the handout. Okay, so I typed the word skinny, and then I separated it out, and you add an offset 0.03. Then you weld it. So it welds the offset to the letter, so it makes it all one letter. And then when it cuts, it cuts only one outer edge. Now, if you don't weld it first, if you just change the color of it so that it looks like it's a nice wide letter to cut, but when you cut it, it's going to cut the skinny letter out of the middle, because if you don't weld it, it still sees it as two pieces. So that is something to really think about. When I go back there, I'm going to try it one more time. You know, it's killing me. Okay, so now we have the color sync, the panel in the Cricut, and I have used everything to be black. So let me change a couple of colors here. And then I can show you in the colors. Okay, it's showing that 000s, all the zeros is solid black. Then this one, this one with read your heart out, is got a little bit of something different color in it. See, there's all these different colors here. Now, if you want, instead of having this be purple, this design of the D, you can grab a hold of this color and move it up to the green. What happened to my D? It went, oh, I got a little too high. That's not where I wanted it. I wanted it to the green. Okay, so then it changed it to green. So this is important for when you are ready to make it. You hit make it, it brings up as many mats as you have colors. Even if it's just something slightly different, like this one has all zeros, that means it's totally black. And this one has 101 on the end, which means it's just a really charcoalish gray. And that's the same with the letters here. This is something, it's a grayish color. So every single color that if you hit make it right here, it would bring up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different mats to cut these things out. And if you really wanted them all black, then it's much easier over here to drag and drop the layers so that they're all black. You just drag them up to the middle here. Now you only have one matte color and it would all cut out the same. Now up here at the very top of the bar, there's my name because I have logged into the account for the system here. If you want to look at the settings, this is where you do that. This is tip number 10. Using these settings to your advantage are very helpful. So if you want to save some stuff to do offline, you can save it. You can't save it in the cloud to do offline. That's what this means is if you want to save it so you can work offline, you need to change it to cloud and computer. So when you save things by clicking on the save button that is clear up here by my stuff, just underneath my name, right next to the make it, button, there's a save button. So you can save everything that you do, and that will be helpful to go back if you need to. But if you save it to your computer, then you can actually cut it and work it with it offline. Now, if you get a new machine, even a iron, a heat press of some sort, you register the product, you update the firmware, you calibrate your cutting machines. If there's ever any updates to their hardware, to your hardware's, um, they do any kind of an update, you can do that here. But what's really interesting to me is if you have an old Cricut with cartridges, this is where you can link those cartridges to your account. It's not uploading them for everybody to use. It's only, and even if you have a free account and you want to link the cartridges to your free account, you will have access to those images because you purchased them at one time. There's different ways you can set up the canvas so there's no grid at all if you want to get rid of that grid. You can use metric if you prefer. There's uh, all different, I mean, there's just so many things that you can set up here. And it tells you what your system is running here. Sometimes that's important when you're working with tech people. But the big deal here is setting up your new machines and linking any old cartridges that you have, and having your canvas either be metric or blank. Those are useful things in the settings. Let's see. What else did I think of? I know we're running out of time, so let me stop my sharing. Does anyone have some questions? Let me see here. I was just reading what was in the chat. I'm curious to know if libraries that offer Cricut for patron use, do the patrons expect the librarian to teach them how to use the Cricut? Yes, many times they do. I agree with Gail. They expect some training like any other makerspace equipment. So you might want to offer a basic one-on-one or do a group training. Um, I agree, Gail, that was good advice. Because if it's in the library, they kind of think you should know how to use it. I mean, you can put up a sign and say, use to your own knowledge, use with your own knowledge, something along those lines. Um, I don't know. So do you have a Cricut and don't offer training, or what's anybody else think? Probably have to have some. Okay. Well, I'm willing to answer questions if you want to send me an email. Um, I will put it, like, again, I'll put this up on the YouTube channel, and the handout will be in the description, and then I will send each of you an email. Actually, I'll just send you the handout because there's not too many of you. I'll just attach it to an email and send it directly to you. If you have other questions about the Cricut, when I did this in Seward, there were several people there that really wanted a more basic, hands-on, knowing how to use the Cricut workshop. So I don't know. I told them I would consider doing another beginning level Cricut activity type thing. So I could sure do that if it's of interest to anybody. But yeah, the like Gail says, using Design Space is a lot like using Corel Draw, only it's an easier software. Corel Draw is much more complicated and it does so much more. I mean, that's the features of it is you can do so much with Corel Draw. Design Space is the watered down version of it. So, but people who are accustomed to using the computer and using that type of software won't have any problems with Design Space, so they may not need training. So, well, let me know if there's something I can do for you, and we'll next week I'll be in Lincoln. We'll be together. I did a survey of folks, and they said they wouldn't mind getting together on the 29th. So that will be an all staff meeting that day. That's 2 weeks from today. All righty. Well, everybody take care. See you again soon.